3 years after our engagement, Galvin Lewis's public declaration of love for his ex-girlfriend suddenly soared on the hot search. This time, I didn't step forward to explain or shield him. I submitted my resignation, stepped down from my senior management position at the Louis Group, carefully gathered the jewelry the Louis family had given me, and calmly told him, "Let's dissolve the engagement." The moment I walked into the Louis Group office, the company chatter immediately ceased. Battling a headache after a sleepless night, I instantly felt the complex stares, a mix of pity and mockery. As I entered my office, murmurs drifted from outside the door, including the indignant voice of a new intern. "Galvin Louis is too much. He has such an excellent fiancé like CEO Susan, yet he's constantly in scandals." For 3 years, whenever Galvin Louis's scandals erupted, he never came forward to explain. The person who always dealt with the media was me. The Louis Group had a dedicated team monitoring public opinion who could inform me promptly before the situation worsened. Gradually, I became accustomed to the negative news and the scrutinizing eyes. Netizens commented on my impressive resume and lauded me as the perfect model wife they admired. I simply rubbed my temples, closed the door on the noise outside with a cold face, and nodded to the assistant waiting by the desk. Let's begin. After today, my career at Louis Group would officially conclude. Farley organized the documents, but didn't leave as usual. He stood and looked at me, his deep blue eyes carrying a question. "Why resign? Are you still planning to marry him after all this?" In 3 years as my assistant, this was the first time Farley had bluntly asked about my personal life. I tilted my head. Before I could answer, he held out his phone. The screen showed an interview after the wrap-up of Galvin Lewis's latest film with the young star Amy. The two stood close, their eyes intimate, talking and laughing easily. In the video, Galvin Lewis's flirtatious eyes curved, smiling as if cleansed of all the troubles since he left home at 18 to pursue acting. When asked about his first impression of Amy, he tilted his head, the corner of his lip twitching with a reckless smile. Amy's radiant face flushed slightly, her usually bright smile now showing a hint of shyness. My eyes stopped at the phone hanging from Amy's phone. I clearly saw the pendant there, the birthday gift I had given him, a small snowflake surrounded by intricately carved diamonds. The reporter continued to ask what kind of woman he liked. Galvin Lewis's face suddenly clouded. He spoke mockingly. "I hate those who willingly act as lapdogs, rigidly following the rules." The host seized the opportunity. "That sounds completely opposite to Miss Amy. Is she not your ideal type? We heard you two attended the same high school." I knew the answer. "Sure enough," he admitted candidly. "I've been her fan since I was 18. Pink comments flooded the screen, constantly screaming, "Perfect CP, I'm dying!" Mixed in was a prominent black comment. "But doesn't Galvin Louis already have a fiancé?" Immediately, a fan jumped in to explain. "They aren't married. He didn't even attend the engagement party. They haven't interacted in years. It's probably just a business relationship." Later, the media reported that Galvin Louis and Amy were caught entering a bar together late at night, even suggesting they stayed at the same hotel. I calmly returned the phone to Farley, whispering, "Please draft the statement to cancel the engagement." I had originally intended to write it myself, to personally end these 3 years. But now I realized it no longer mattered. This was the first time I had entrusted Galvin Lewis's affairs to someone else. Farley's blue eyes widened slightly. His voice trembled as he replied, "Understood." He had never shown such emotion in 3 years. Watching his hurried departure, I was suddenly astonished. It turned out this quiet, meticulous assistant could be so meddlesome at times. The pain in my temple flared up again. I rubbed it, the accumulated exhaustion of many years instantly flooding my body. But everything wasn't over yet. The final step remained. I dozed off on the sofa and was awakened by the sound of Galvin Louis's footsteps. He stood in front of me, his jacket over his arm, his face close enough that I could feel the faint movement of his eyelashes. Seeing me open my eyes, he stepped back 2 paces. His flirtatious eyes were cold, completely devoid of the tenderness from the interview. He asked, "Why are you looking for me?" He still reeked of alcohol. His shirt was casually unbuttoned, a lipstick stain visible on his collar, and subtle marks concealed beneath his collarbone. I looked away and heard my voice calmly respond, "Galvin Louis, let's talk." He gave a faint laugh. "Want to be my mother's spokeswoman again? Don't dream about it. I have no interest in inheriting the Louis group. Isn't it enough that she has you as her puppet?" I replied, "I have already submitted my resignation, and CEO Adela has approved it." His movement of unbuttoning his shirt suddenly halted. Galvin Louis's eyes flashed with impatience. He tilted his chin, his voice mocking. "Did you resign because she wanted you to marry me, but realized her schemes were useless? What now? Do you want to directly plant a tracking device on me?" I calmly repeated what I had affirmed many times. CEO Adela is very busy. She doesn't have the free time to make things difficult for you. It was the truth. The Louis Group was primarily an industrial conglomerate, completely unrelated to the entertainment industry. Galvin Louis didn't have a formal background, and his ability to hold his own on screen was mostly due to his naturally handsome face. But the world of fame and fortune was never clean. In his early years, he constantly ran into obstacles, stubbornly believing that his mother deliberately arranged people to hinder him. Just like when he was in high school, he falsely accused me of tattling, which made his grandfather aware of all his actions. He irritably shook his head, as if swatting away an annoying fly, and said, "If it wasn't for my grandmother's dying wish, who would bother marrying you? I'm currently on the rise in my career. I don't have time to get married. Just tell me the date of the wedding. I'll see if I'm in the mood to show up." His thin lips curved into a scornful smile. "Anyway, for the Louis family shares, you'll endure anything, won't you?" The Louis Group was founded by Galvin Louis's maternal grandmother, and later, his mother took over, dedicating herself entirely to the business. It was his grandmother who raised Galvin Louis. As for me, 12 years ago, on a day of torrential rain, my biological father locked me up for 2 days and 2 nights. His eyes were bloodshot, a belt in his hand, forcing me to hand over the rest of the money my mother left behind. He was out of money, and if I didn't comply, I was sure he would beat me to death. But I didn't want to die. I wanted to eat, and I wanted to go to school. I panicked and fled into the rain, rushing recklessly onto the highway. If the Louis family's driver hadn't braked in time, I might have died right there. Sitting on the cold, wet road, my heart pounded wildly, threatening to leap out of my chest. Tears, rain, and headlights blurred into streaks. Car noises roared in my ears. A pair of warm hands pulled me up, gently wiping the mud from my face with a handkerchief. When I opened my eyes, I saw the anxious, dark eyes of the young Galvin Louis. He asked, "Susan, are you okay?" My father was being restrained by the Louis family's driver on the wet pavement, his bearded face contorted with hatred, cursing nonstop. In the moment of chaos, I fainted in Galvin Louis's arms. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. Galvin Louis sat by the bedside, his messy hair falling over his pale forehead, dark circles under his eyes from exhaustion, peeling an apple while tossing a small ball in his hand. Seeing me open my eyes, he slightly curled his lips, his smile holding a hint of childishness. "Hello, I'm Galvin Louis." As he spoke, he cut the apple, then coaxed, "Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. That worthless father of yours has been dealt with by the police." I whispered my thanks, unable to help asking, "You know me?" The apple he was peeling became mangled, and he finally tossed it aside, smiling at me again. "The famous little genius. Who doesn't know you? You are the eldest daughter born with a silver spoon." This is probably the hardest crash landing of your life, isn't it? He firmly refused my offer to repay the debt. His eyes were full of pity. "Your father is truly worthless. Now that you've met me, consider it my business. Don't worry, the Louis family has never been short of money." That night, he pleaded with his mother to adopt me. Of course, his mother objected, but his ailing grandmother claimed the house was empty and wanted me to tutor Galvin Louis, allowing me to move into the Louis family's villa. For the first 2 years, he treated me like a little sister, often bringing me strange snacks and glittering items he thought girls would like. Once, he skipped school just to buy a sparkling snowflake necklace. He presented it to me, trying to coax me into calling him Big Brother. But in the end, I only called him Galvin Louis, which made him reluctantly and irritably say, "Susan, you are so petty." His mother paid little attention to me, busy with corporate struggles. We rarely saw each other, until my small room was filled with trophies and medals. Her gaze gradually changed. She began to frequently call me to her study room for lectures, hired private coaches, and urged me to participate in international competitions. Throughout my 4 years of university, I was rotated through various departments of the corporation. After our engagement, she directly decided to place me in the senior leadership ranks under the title of Galvin Louis' fiancé. But his relationship with his mother was always strained. Apart from a few similar facial features, they had nothing in common. He skipped classes, fought, and dated. He never cared about business, and stubbornly announced he would conquer the entertainment industry with Amy. As he grew older, the conflict deepened, until one fierce argument when his mother angrily shouted, "Why can't you be even half as reasonable as Susan?" Then she slammed the door and left. Galvin Louis looked at me coldly. When I stammered, wanting to offer some advice, he suddenly gritted his teeth and said, "Are you her lapdog?" I was stunned. I only heard him continue, "Why do you obey everything she says?" He looked at me with sharp eyes, his tone wanting to push me to the wall. "She tells you to study something, and you study it. You practice day and night like a machine, just to bring her trophies to show off. Do you have any opinions of your own? Do you truly like anything? Have any hobbies? Do you even know? You know I was the one who brought you here, yet you side with her." Galvin Louis's eyes grew distant. He added, "Susan, your last name isn't Louis. No matter what you do, she won't give you a single share of the company." It was only later that I understood. Whispers were always in his ear. CEO Adela cherishes an outsider like this. Isn't it because her son is incompetent, so she's grooming a new heir? I tried even harder, and in the eyes of others, all my efforts turned into a greedy ambition to seize assets. I moved my lips. My defense was so weak that it held no conviction. I was just a dependent, not a Louis descendant. Besides my achievements and obedience, what else could I offer? Galvin Louis suddenly leaned close. The cold wood scent on him enveloped me. His voice was soft, but compelling. "Tomorrow, we'll be racing cars on the mountain slope. If you want me to believe you, come there." He knew full well I had a competition tomorrow that his mother valued greatly, having personally arranged 2 private coaches for me. But the next day, I still chose to attend the competition. As I walked out the door, I saw news that the illegal car racing track on the mountain had been permanently sealed. Immediately after, a message from Galvin Louis popped up. "No wonder my mother knows everything. Amy and I are together, and even about skipping school. So you were the one who reported it?" My message failed to go through, showing a red exclamation mark. He had judged me beforehand, never giving me a chance to explain. I turned off the screen. My mind was blank. From that day on, in his eyes, I became completely associated with the family's shackles, rules, caution, obedience, the complete opposite of the first person he ever loved, Amy. Amy was proud, beautiful, and even appeared in a Hollywood film in high school. She later chose to stay abroad for her studies, eventually breaking up with him. If it wasn't for his grandmother's final wish that the two children she loved most could stay together forever, even if only Galvin Louis and I remained in the world, he would never have gotten engaged to me. He didn't even show up for the engagement ceremony. Only when he needed to put on a show for his grandmother would he appear with a forced expression. The engagement rings were bought by his mother. I wore both rings alone for 3 years, like a bitter solo performance. In her will, his grandmother left me 5% of the shares, provided I married Galvin Louis. This only strengthened his certainty that I was plotting to seize assets. But I no longer cared what he thought. Today, everything would end. I lightly stroked the mark on my finger, feeling that even this trace was ridiculous. Taking a breath, I stated clearly, not marriage, but the cancellation of the engagement. The list and the jewelry are in the bedroom. Go check. On the bedside table, the 2 engagement rings pressed down on the asset inventory. The entirety of the jewelry his grandmother had given me. I left everything behind. Galvin Louis's actions paused. He threw his jacket onto the sofa, frowned, and said, "Don't think I don't know you studied psychology in university. Are you free to scheme against me? You're familiar with this retreat to advance trick. You haven't even married yet, and you're already settling the assets. What about the years the Louis family raised you?" I replied, "I've already discussed that with CEO Adela." I remembered the day I submitted my resignation. His mother was silent for a long time, then pulled a silver mint cigarette from a bright silver case. I quietly lit it for her. Half a cigarette burned down before she said hoarsely, "During grandmother's final years, you were always by her side. The Louis Group's successful transformation and triple profits are largely thanks to you. If you hadn't taken care of Galvin, I wouldn't have been at peace these past few years. Galvin is young. He doesn't know how to cherish things." I smiled and replied, "Without grandmother, I wouldn't be where I am today." The smoke curled. Her eyes showed a fleeting weariness. She gently patted my hand and said, "Have you decided where you want to go?" I suddenly thought of the distant, snow-covered mountains, the feeling of freedom when climbing the peak. For the first time in years, I felt relieved and answered, "I have." The cigarette burned out. She casually extinguished it in the ashtray. Her usual sternness softened. She gently patted my hand and said, "Remember to come back and visit. The Louis family's house is your house, too." I didn't want to waste any more words with Galvin Louis. I stood up, ready to leave. But he suddenly pulled my wrist. His dark eyes fixed on me, his motion carrying a hint of tension. He asked, "Where are you going?" He scanned the living room, and upon seeing no luggage, he softly exhaled. I suddenly remembered and asked, "Can you give me back the snowflake?" Over the years, most of the gifts I gave Galvin Louis were discarded, and he didn't even bother to glance at them. Only that snowflake. He casually hung on his phone and forgot to take off. With his continuous love scandals, I believed he was fully capable of winning Amy over. He didn't need to cling to an old keepsake. I only whispered, "If possible, please give it to my assistant, Farley. He will forward it to me." Galvin Louis suddenly let go of my wrist. His mood seemed to suddenly improve. He slumped onto the sofa, a faint dimple curving at the corner of his lips. "It turns out today was a jealousy stunt. Are you angry?" I cut him off. We have no relationship now. Everything that needed to be said has been said. I don't want to drag this on. I turned to walk toward the door. Behind me, I heard his lazy laugh. Come back soon. I feel sick from drinking. I want to eat the porridge you cooked tomorrow. My steps faltered. I remembered the time he was filming abroad, and because of a single call complaining of stomachache, despite having worked overtime for a month straight, I flew over 10 hours to take care of him. The next morning, when he was sober, he looked at me coldly. Why did you come? I was foolish then, thinking being near him was enough, but this time I only whispered, Galvin Louis, goodbye. He casually reminded, remember to make pumpkin millet porridge. I walked out the door and immediately headed to the airport. 10 hours later, I stood at the foot of the snow-covered Haba Mountain. I checked into a small guest house, turned off my phone, and slept for an entire day and night. If the enthusiastic landlady hadn't woken me up for a meal, I probably would have kept sleeping. I splashed cold water on my face. Looking in the mirror, my already cold face looked even more drawn out from fatigue. Like this, I could immediately star in a tragic art film without needing makeup. I suddenly remembered that Galvin Louis' award-winning film was exactly that genre. When filming, he was reckless, not even using a body double for the scene sitting with a sewer rat. Afterward, even after showering multiple times, he still felt disgusted and held me while sleeping for a week. He told me not to overthink it, but at the time, I was genuinely happy, thinking we had gotten a little closer. I slapped my face to clear my thoughts. The long sleep didn't relax me. Instead, it stirred up years of fatigue. I felt exhausted from head to toe. I dragged my soulless body downstairs, staring blankly at the steaming bowl of millet porridge. The corner of my eye caught a familiar figure. I was stunned and blurted out, Farley? The person turned his head. His eyes were blue like the ocean. Who else could it be but Farley? I asked, why are you here? Isn't there trouble at the company? Farley took a few strides and sat down beside me. I'm here to participate in the Haba mountain climb in a month. The same purpose as me. My heart trembled momentarily, but I remembered that in his resume, his main hobby was mountaineering. He used to be the president of the climbing club at his Ivy League school. I had even specifically asked CEO Adela to promote him before leaving. He should be at his busiest now. So why was he here? Hearing my question, he gently shook his head, pushed a side dish towards me, and said, I resigned too. I frowned. You worked with me for 3 years. Who would dare to make things difficult for you? Was it those old men on the board? I quickly reached for my phone, then remembered I'd left it in the room. Farley gently pressed my wrist and said, No one made things difficult. It just didn't feel meaningful to stay. In 3 years of working closely, we rarely spoke outside of work. I didn't press him further and said, If you have any difficulties, tell me. I still have some connections. He had already peeled 2 shrimp and placed them on my plate. Hearing this, he smiled gently, his blue eyes shimmering. Then I thank you in advance, CEO Susan. I took a bite of shrimp, murmuring to myself, worried for nothing. With his face, he wouldn't starve even as a model. To my surprise, my hand trembled and the shrimp fell to the ground. Farley frowned and said, Do you think your body is fit enough to climb Haba Mountain? Although the difficulty isn't high, the weather changes, and you still need stamina. I waved my hand. It's fine. I can handle it. As soon as I finished speaking, I dropped my chopsticks. I bent down to pick them up, hearing a distinct crack from my spine. Perhaps years of work had worn down my body more than I realized. Farley's eyes showed a hint of worry. He said, "Susan, climbing requires strength. I know a few massage techniques. I can help you with recovery training." I hadn't expected my body to degenerate to this extent. Although I was unwilling, I eventually nodded. The owner, sweeping the floor, winked and said, "Haven't seen you two in years. Are you finally a couple? Your boyfriend is so handsome. No wonder you cried so pitifully over that block of ice before." I blushed deeply. "We're not..." But Farley seemed unfazed. He said seriously, "Susan, let's go." It turned out Farley's room was right next to mine. That evening, during the bonfire party, I sat across from him. The firelight illuminated his calm, unruffled face. I finally couldn't suppress the doubt in my heart. I tilted my head, staring at him, trying to find a flaw. "Farley, I didn't owe you any salary for 3 years. Why did you travel thousands of miles to follow me here? Are you planning to assassinate me?" He lowered his head. His blue eyes reflected the dancing flames. He said, "Susan, do you remember Roja Snow Mountain?" I was stunned. He sighed and continued, "I am Aaron, the person you found that year." Roja was the most challenging mountain to conquer in Country A. The snowstorms were brutal, the weather was unpredictable, and countless people died along the way. At that time, my team had only climbed halfway when we heard another team had lost someone in the blizzard. I gave up my chance to reach the summit, joined the search team, and luckily dug out a person who was nearly buried alive in the snow. It was him. Hearing him recount it, memories flooded back. The wind howled like tearing lungs. Everything was a blinding white. As I dragged his heavy body, I shouted to encourage myself. "We have to live. I still want to see Galvin Louis again, and I want to conquer Roja one more time." The thought of Galvin Louis made my heart clench. I forced a smile and said, "I plan to return at the end of the year. If you're still interested, let's go together." I tilted my head, half-jokingly adding, "No wonder with your qualifications you agreed to be my assistant for 3 years. It turns out it was just to repay your love debt to me." He nodded slightly and asked, "I checked with your team. You never climbed again afterward. Why is that?" I looked into the fire and whispered, "Climbing Roja was the most impulsive decision of my life." My grandmother had just passed away. I never believed in deities, but I heard the mountain god of Roja could grant wishes. I wanted to pray for my grandmother to be safe and healthy in her next life. At that time, I was still in debt. I couldn't afford any risks, let alone allow myself any mishaps. Now, things were different. I was alone, free to come and go. I could finally pursue what I wanted. He asked again, "Why do you like climbing?" I fell silent for a moment, then let out a soft laugh. Perhaps because when I climb, I only need to think about the step in front of me. When I reach the summit, I feel small. Love, hatred, and suffering all dissipate in the vastness of nature. It's like I also become a part of the mountain. I like that feeling. I lowered my head, my voice hoarse with the wine. He just listened quietly, his eyes never leaving me, until I couldn't bear it and changed the subject. "Has the statement canceling the engagement been sent?" He replied, "It has." I asked again, "Did Galvin Louis give you the diamond snowflake?" He shook his head and replied, "The next day he went directly to see CEO Adela. He didn't give me anything. He took a sip of wine, the firelight dancing in his eyes as he asked, "Is that very important?" I took a sip, swirling the glass. My voice was light. "Not really. I bought that snowflake with my competition prize money. It's worthless to others, just a boring item. But it has meaning to me." The way one treats a gift depends on the position of the giver in their heart. Amy gave Galvin Louis a ring back in high school, and Galvin Louis still wears it, doesn't he? I stared silently at the wine glass. Farley's voice was low and clear. His eyes were red in the firelight. "It's not boring at all. If it were mine, I would cherish it forever." I looked at him, surprised. It turned out he was easily empathetic toward romantic stories, which made me wonder if he secretly listened to love radio under his blanket at night and cried into his pillow. That image, placed on a man nearly 6 feet 3 inches tall and this handsome, was too incongruous. I burst out laughing, my mood instantly lighter. Farley quietly took the bottle of wine from my hand and said softly, "We'll start training a bit earlier tomorrow. You should get some rest tonight." I suddenly felt suspicious. Was his salary at the Louis Group insufficient? Was he moonlighting at a gym and the blind massage parlor? The physical recovery meal plan he wrote for me was meticulously detailed, and his massage technique was strangely professional. After the treatment, I felt physically refreshed. I couldn't help but ask, "How do you know so much?" He let out a low chuckle. "I specifically went to learn after coming down the mountain that year." He was intimately familiar with all kinds of climbing gear. As for me, I had left the Louis family with nothing. Initially, I planned to buy a few supplies the next day, but Farley had already prepared everything meticulously. He was also an excellent cook, cooking meals in the guest house's small kitchen every day. The landlady was completely won over after a few shared meals. She rubbed her full belly and shook her head, lamenting, "So handsome and so capable. He's so perfect. If he's not your boyfriend, leave him to me. I really need a talent like this." With that, she shook her head sadly and walked away. I laughed, feeling a slight embarrassment, while Farley's ears turned red as he focused on washing the dishes. Watching him dry his hands and walk towards me, I suddenly blurted out, "It's only been a few days, and I'm already nearly inseparable from you." His eyes lit up, and his gentle smile made me look away awkwardly. His Eurasian features, with deep bone structure and turquoise eyes, shone brightly under the light. I rotated my wrist, and realizing he was like a personal life assistant, I half-jokingly asked, "Are you interested in continuing to be my assistant? Your salary will be calculated according to Louis Group standards. I guarantee you won't lose out." The smile instantly vanished from his lips. The atmosphere around us seemed to drop a few degrees. After a long silence, he said in a deep voice, "No need. Just consider me your snail girl." I said seriously, "How can that be?" "I don't have a habit of accepting favors without reciprocating." We were scheduled to climb the mountain tomorrow. That evening, I quietly wrote a card, planning to give it to him after we descended. Next to me was the phone I hadn't turned on in a long time. I held it in my hand, hesitating for a long time, then finally plugged it in and started it up. I thought there would only be a few missed calls and sarcastic messages from Galvin Louis, but the moment the screen lit up, a barrage of messages and calls popped up, causing the phone to freeze and then shut down. Holding the phone, I was stunned. The familiar fatigue washed over me again. I nearly threw it straight into the outdoor bonfire, but remembering the nearest bank was a 2-hour drive away, I sighed and reopened it. It lagged for a long time before working. I scrolled to the top and saw Galvin Louis's message, sent the day after I left. "Susan, don't you dare regret this." A few days later, he sent a clarification video. I opened it. In it was his face, his eyes bloodshot, his voice hoarse. When I spoke about my ideal type last time, that was just a line from the script. Amy and I are only colleagues. We have no personal relationship whatsoever. The rumor mongers prepare for court. His frantic, stubborn look was frightening. Comments below exploded. Did Galvin finally break off the engagement, preparing to openly pursue Amy? Did you notice? He's wearing a ring. He didn't show up for the engagement, but now he's wearing a ring after canceling it. Did he actually propose to Amy? I quietly rewound and found he had removed the ring he never took off, replacing it with the engagement ring. I closed the video, quickly skimming through his subsequent messages. Are you not going to honor grandmother's wish? Do you have no conscience? The Louis group raised you all this time. You just resign? The rivals are seizing this opportunity to attack. The stock is plummeting. Don't you know the consequences? I don't agree to the cancellation of the engagement. I won't sign. Who gave you the right to issue a statement on my behalf? You left with nothing, running off alone. Where is your safety? Do you know how worried I am? That snowflake was mistakenly taken by Amy. I never gave your things to her. Susan, I can't sleep. I'm drunk. Come pick me up. Susan, my stomach hurts. If you don't come, I don't care if I die from the pain. The last message stopped 2 days ago. Susan, I can't find you. That night, he had called 78 times. I tossed the phone onto the bed. My headache was unbearable. In the past, as long as Galvin Louis said he needed me, I would rush to him, ignoring all my own pain. But at this moment, I only felt nauseous, like I had swallowed something spoiled and expired. I looked out the window at the blurred, snowy mountains under the night, thinking, I really should throw the phone into the fire. But the next second, the screen lit up, and simultaneously, urgent, angry knocking echoed at the door. I gritted my teeth and ignored it, but finally got up and opened the door. The moment the door cracked open, a figure, covered in wind and snow, rushed in, hugging me tightly. The cold radiating from him wrapped around me, trembling against my earlobe. Susan, damn it, how could you just disappear like that without telling me where you were? I thought you were dead. Galvin Louis's voice was hoarse, his eyes blazing. I struggled out of his arms, my voice icy cold. Mr. Galvin, we have no relationship anymore. Please be respectful. His eyes burned fiercely, as if he wanted to incinerate me on the spot. Galvin Louis clamped down on my wrist, his eyes bloodshot. No relationship? I picked you up and raised you. Does that count as a relationship? The Louis family found evidence that ruined your biological father's reputation, ensuring he could never recover. Does that count as a relationship? I never signed that ridiculous paper you drafted, and I don't acknowledge the statement you issued. You still have 5% of the Louis Group shares. I am your fiancé. Does that count as a relationship? His voice was a deafening buzz. I burst out with a sharp sound that surprised even myself. I know the Louis family has shown me great kindness. You don't need to keep reminding me. You saved me. Grandmother loved me. Your mother groomed me. I remember it all. But Galvin Louis, what exactly do you want from me? To skip school with you, go abroad to be your manager, and fight against CEO Adela and the board with you? If the turnaround effort had failed these past few years and the Louis Group went bankrupt, would you have been heartless enough to watch your grandmother's and CEO Adela's life's work turn to dust, forced to live in a small apartment to pay off debts? I had to do everything perfectly so CEO Adela would overlook your reckless behavior. Did you know that while you were abroad filming, grandmother's Alzheimer's was so advanced she would talk to the mirror all day? You pursue your dream, but the world doesn't revolve around you. Everyone has their own life. No one has the time to be a constant obstacle for you. He looked at me silently, then suddenly reached out to touch my face. I couldn't dodge in time and felt cold moisture on his hand. Galvin Louis, always arrogant and looking down on others, now looked at the wetness on his hand, his voice hoarse. "I'm sorry." I was stunned. I realized I was crying, but hadn't felt it. It was as if the fatigue in my body was speaking for itself. I said slowly, "Yes, I reported the illegal racetrack on the mountain. I saw it with my own eyes. No barriers, no obstacles, no emergency equipment, and the nearest hospital was 5 kilometers away. I couldn't imagine what would happen if something happened to you. But other than that, I never tracked you." He whispered softly, "Don't cry. I believe you." In the past, no matter what I said, I only received a mocking smile. The first time he said, "I believe you," I felt only a weary indifference. I shook my head and said, "Go home. I don't want to be the Louis family's madam, nor do I need the shares. Every penny I have, I earned myself. If you still think I owe the Louis family, take it all, but let's not contact each other anymore." Galvin Louis looked up. His eyes were bloodshot. He was about to hug me, but I pulled away too fiercely, hitting my head on the open door. Just then, Farley rushed down the stairs and threw a punch straight at Galvin Louis' face. He steadied me, his blue eyes anxiously asking, "Susan, are you okay?" Galvin Louis unexpectedly fell to the ground, blood at the corner of his mouth. His eyes were confused, then quickly turned to rage. "Your assistant? Did you leave me for him?" In that instant, I found it so ridiculous that I burst out laughing. It turned out all my heartbroken shouting meant nothing. His first reaction was always suspicion, never once trust. It might have been partly due to others' gossip, but in the end, he chose to believe them, not me. I looked at him. For a moment, I still saw the silhouette of the young man who had reached out to pull me up in the rain. The light of my youth, the pillar I once believed in. But if I had to sacrifice over a decade of effort, give up all benefits, and scream until my heart broke just to receive a shred of cheap trust, then no, I didn't need it anymore. He was once the light of my youth, but now I wished I had never met him. I smiled faintly and said, "That's right. Farley and I have been secretly involved for a while. I want to cancel the engagement because of him. I am exactly that kind of person. You'd best stay far away from me. I'm not worth your trouble." Farley stepped forward, shielding me. His voice was icy cold. "Mr. Galvin, please stop harassing my girlfriend. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to use my own methods to resolve this." I stared at him. He certainly got into character quickly. Just then, a police siren sounded outside the yard. They arrived just in time to see Galvin Louis roaring and lunging towards Farley. The landlady ran up, breathless, holding a wooden stick. "Susan, I'm here!" Galvin Louis was restrained, but still shouted, "Susan, I am your fiancé!" I said coldly, "You didn't even show up for the engagement ceremony. It would be more accurate to say I was engaged to CEO Adela." His face turned pale, his lips trembling, unable to utter a word. After calling CEO Adela, I received her calm reply. "Leave him there for a few days. He'll behave eventually." I turned and saw Farley, half kneeling by the bed, testing the water temperature with the back of his hand. He said gently, "Your hands are cold. Soaking your feet before sleeping will help." I placed my feet in the basin, watching him carefully apply medicine to the swelling on my forehead, then wring out a hot towel and gently wipe my face. I felt a little embarrassed and quickly snatched the towel to wipe my face myself. I'm not a child anymore. An assistant doesn't need to be this attentive. Farley softly nodded. His deep blue eyes held a smile. That's a privilege of being my girlfriend. I awkwardly apologized. "I'm sorry for dragging you into this mess." He shook his head and replied, "Even if it's fake, I feel honored." I secretly decided I would pay him double his salary this month, plus compensation for his reputation. I teased casually, "You're acting too well. Why don't you join showbiz? You'd probably have a better future than being my assistant." He replied with a blunt statement, "There's no acting. My saying I like you is real." Then, as if it were nothing, he turned and walked out. I sat dumbfounded on the bed, my mouth still slightly ajar. A moment later, he returned, placing a cup of warm milk on the bedside table, and instructed, "If you can't sleep, call me. I'll be right outside the door." I called him back. "Farley." He bent down to look at me. I took a breath and slowly said, "If this is why you are staying by my side, I apologize. I'm not thinking about a relationship right now, and maybe I won't in the future. I finally have time to do what I want. For the next 10 years, I will conquer the highest mountains, the mountains no one has set foot on, and even try free climbing. I won't deny that I have some feelings for you, but that's all it is." Hearing the word feelings, his eyes lit up. It was as if he had a tail. He would be wagging it fiercely. He said, "Wait for me." Less than a minute later, a detailed file was in my hands. Unlike the resume I had seen, this one documented everything about him: his academic history from childhood, physical data, assets, and immediate family. I was stunned when I read the part about his father being the CEO of KWT Group. Looking at the asset list, I thought of the salary card I planned to give him, suddenly feeling bitter, like a poor, illegitimate child. When I flipped to the physical data section, my face flushed, and I quickly closed it. He knelt, half kneeling by the bed, his eyes serious. "Susan, the first time I met you was at the national math competition in the 11th grade. I liked you then. I'm showing you this only so you understand that I am healthy, mentally sound, and financially independent. My feelings for you stem only from admiration and affection. You don't need to shoulder any moral obligations out of duty or guilt. In fact, the fact that you have some feelings for me is an unexpected bonus. Galvin Louis is an idiot who doesn't understand that your love is priceless. I accept any definition you give our relationship. Friends, hired relationship, whatever. I told you I like you just so you know that your existence is enough to make someone else happy." My eyes teared up, my voice choked. "Thank you. I really needed to hear that tonight." I composed myself, pushed a bank card towards him, and said, "For now, let's maintain a professional relationship." He wasn't surprised. He took the card and extended his hand. "Does the employer want a friendly hug?" I hesitated for a moment, then finally hugged him. His arms were strong, radiating warmth like sunlight. It was clearly just a warm embrace, but I felt all my pent-up sadness. Years of unshed tears burst forth in that moment. He said nothing, just quietly patted my back until I drifted off to sleep. The next day, we began our journey. The climb was challenging, but I finally stood on the summit. On the snow peak, I set up camp. The next morning, I opened the tent and watched the sun slowly rise over the snowy ridge. My heart finally felt a sense of a new beginning. My mind was blank. I just quietly watched the golden sun. Over the next 2 years, I conquered one mountain after another, sometimes with Farley, sometimes alone. Galvin Louis still sent me messages every few days. Even when I changed my number, he found me. I never replied. Until one time, in a cafe at the foot of a glacier, I saw him sitting alone. I asked Farley to wait, then walked over and asked, "Say what you need to say." His deep, dark eyes fixed on me. He said hoarsely, "Susan, if you agree to come back, the position of the Louis family's madam will remain empty for no one else." The coffee cup in his hand trembled slightly. The engagement ring was still on his finger, now inlaid with a snowflake diamond. He whispered, "I can overlook Farley. Susan, I love you, and I never stopped. I just didn't know how to face you. There were too many mistakes piled up. I hated you for not siding with me. I was afraid you were only with me for the Louis family's money, not for love. But I swear, I never touched those other women." I looked at Galvin Louis, my heart flat and calm. He was sitting right in front of me, yet he felt incredibly distant, not even as close as the Rocky Mountains and snow outside. I softly called, "Galvin Louis, after all these years, don't you truly know whether I loved you or not? You are only accustomed to me always waiting in the same spot so you could vent all your insecurities. But in my world, that is not love." His face instantly turned pale. He stammered, "I will learn to love you. Susan, I truly miss you." I looked at him silently. He was once like a god, reaching out to pull me from the mire of despair. But he was also the one who, with years of relentless suspicion, completely squandered the love I had for him. I was still grateful to him, but I had decided not to love anymore. I cut him off. "It's over, Galvin Louis. Once I make a decision, I don't look back." I left the cafe and saw Farley waiting by the car. I playfully nudged him. "Let's go. We still need to prepare for Roja Mountain." We conquered Roja together. This time, the weather was gentle, as if the mountain god was opening its arms. On the vast white summit, I sincerely prayed for my grandmother, hoping she would be healthy and peaceful in her next life. When I opened my eyes, I found Farley was also closing his, quietly making a wish. I laughed, leaning in to lightly touch his lips. In his stunned and flustered breath, I laughed out loud again. I held his hand and said, "The mountain god here is very effective. Whatever you wished for will come true." He immediately pulled me tight. His ears were crimson, his blue eyes shining brightly like a cascading waterfall. I looked out at the boundless, silent snow mountain, leaving all the dusty past behind me. I knew that ahead of me, many more peaks awaited.